Hello and welcome to another episode of Waracle Talks. My name is Tom Williams and I have the absolute pleasure of being your host today, hosting a great panel. I have my esteemed colleague David Lowe joining, our Chief AI Officer. We have Lee and Nathan from Aegon. Waracle have been working for a number of years now in the pensions industry, and the sector's evolved so much over the last 3 to 4 years. Digital native experiences have become the norm, right? And we felt no one better to talk to around this than the team at Aegon, who have developed out quite a game-changing product with Mylo. Before we get on to Mylo, though, we're going to start with a couple of introductions. So, Nathan, if you give us an introduction to who you are, what your role is, and give us a little bit of background of how you got into where you are today.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Tom. So Nathan Thompson. I have spent the last 10 years, I guess, in product. Didn't know at the time, but yeah, spent the last 10 years working across various businesses of Aegon. I think it's something like 10 years, 9 different countries, 8 different roles. So it's been really fun across product strategy, marketing, change transformation, and yeah, it culminates in kind of where I am now, which is co-founder of Mylo, and then alongside Lee get to lead that.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Welcome. Lee, over to you.
Hi Tom, good to be back in some ways. So my name is Lee Shaw. I'm currently head of product at Mylo from Aegon. Been doing that role for a little while now. Look after our product and design teams, largely looking at our product strategy and I guess delivering on our commercial and our customer outcomes. Interestingly, today's a bit of a full circle moment. Obviously started my career, if you want to call it that, out of uni. In this very company in Waracle, so great to see some old faces today. Not got Blair behind the camera, but I think he did my first interview back in the day. Really enjoyed my time here. Developed a keen interest in digital product and worked mostly in our fintech vertical. Then moved to Aegon about 4 years ago. Worked mostly in strategy function, looking at our channel strategies, helping our C-suite with kind of our board narratives. And then I met this guy about 2 years in, and I guess we've been on a kind of crazy journey for the last 2 years, co-founding Mylo, which looking forward to getting into speaking about today.
Awesome. Thank you very much, gents. I think we can all agree around the table, right? The change that the pensions industry has gone through. It's slightly lagging behind the retail banking sector, right? But the aspirations, I think, for pensions to be far more digital native is there. And I think there's been some pretty game-changing products and services that come out to the market. What's really interesting for me around Mylo is how it operates as its own digital business within a massive organization like Aegon. Could you give us a little bit more of a feel of, how you came up with the proposition, how you managed to, I guess, persuade the stakeholders within your business to have it sit where it is as its own kind of own business within the business, and a little bit around the digital product strategy and brand as a whole?
Yeah, sure. I guess really probably 3 things or kind of forces came together at the right time, as often the case. One would be around customer needs, right? So as you say, the world's changing, other industries are evolving quite quickly, and the expectation of customer is definitely moving on rapidly, and we wanted to kind of figure out how do we play in that space. 2, the regulation. Pensions are the kind of ever increasing on the agenda. When we started these conversations, pension dashboard was still a pipe dream, obviously we're very close to that now, but that's going to be a shift, and we believe we're going to have a different kind of angle to how people engage in their pensions. And then 3, Aegon the growth story. We were in a period of time a few years ago where we wanted to grow, we needed to place some bets and to kind of go beyond kind of the incremental growth into more structural growth. Yeah. And when Lee was mentioning his strategy team earlier, so Lee was doing some work around customer strategy and the customer need, but also the economics and understanding our customer base, kind of built out a CLTV model, which kind of was a real crux of where we started, right?
Yeah, so I guess just to add a bit more color, kind of think about it through product lens. Obviously we had kind of our business rationale, and then our customer rationale, and then just the how we approached I guess Mylo as a solution. So on the business side, like Nathan said, absolutely a growth story for Aegon. Typically, obviously, businesses like us are super good at distribution. We get a ton of customers for free, if you want to call it, through our channels like the workplace every year. But typically, we've not always had a super focus on growing that lifetime value over the nature of the customer. And if you look at the types of financial products we offer, things like pensions, we'll probably talk about it today in our engagement space, but typically under sort of engaged with, and we know that, employers tend to pick, the pension scheme as well. So again, customers come to it sort of further behind. So we knew there was a big business opportunity for us to focus on there. But we knew that to solve that engagement problem, we really had to get closer to, customers. And that's probably the most fun I've had over the last 2 years is, going up and down the country, random business parks, random factories, speaking to customers about pensions and, why they engage and why they don't engage, and really use that to develop conviction. And I guess what we thought the answer was, around life moments as a kind of route into having that conversation and meeting customers where they are. And so that really started to be kind of our wedge forming. And then in terms of the how, like Nathan said, I think Nathan will probably talk about this later on, but we're not just an app. I think that's something that he drummed into us nice and early on. That's probably 1/4, 1/5 of the solution. We also think about our engagement engine and data. We have a full help and support team that we know is super important. And I guess, ultimately it's the people that we've tried to build and, the people that have come along on the journey with us to try and, solve some of these problems. And from the pure product side, we were really interested in fixing that first wedge. We're really just at the start of our journey. And for us as well, and for us, that was, job switchers and helping them find and combine their lost spots.
So you talk about engagement, obviously really important when it comes to pensions, and you talk about those life moments. How did you break down those life moments? What did you establish those to be?
I think we kind of step back a little bit. Our kind of vision in Aegon is that we're trying to solve for the 100-year life. There's a lot of data that shows that people, are statistically going to be living longer, and that means, much more challenges over a lifetime. And so really we see ourselves playing right across that spectrum, but obviously there's places where we can play a bit sooner. So that is why, job switching, we have, thousands of customers who change jobs every year. And what we kind of found through our insight was, for that first year, you're much more likely to think about, your old pox and stuff like that. So that was a really good engagement moment. Yeah. But we've got a lot of plans in the kind of future roadmap around, helping towards that retirement conversation, which is changing for everyone. We're super excited about the opportunities in the health space. So whether that's, targeted support and the changes that are coming there, or potentially, advisors and education and guidance. So we really see the whole spectrum across that, but we've obviously taken a wedge-based approach so we can kind of chop it up.
That's really, really interesting. I think I've seen a particular interest in the younger audience, particularly engaging with Mylo, just around the branding and how you marketed it, which has been really interesting. What's been the kind of driver behind that, I guess, Nathan?
Yeah, I guess, well, Lee's teed up nicely, right? If you couldn't go after this just by the digital product, it couldn't just be another app. So same principle, we custom tested everything. So, the brand went through with a couple of partners. We did lots of research. Do we use Aegon? Do we use something new? Do we do it powered by? And the reality is probably a few key themes from that. One was people are looking for something or someone to turn to. There was a really fun story about a person, multiple people actually always came back to, who do you turn to when you want to talk about pensions or savings? A mate who works in finance. So everyone has someone they knew who works in a finance department somewhere, whether that's local bakery, joinery, big FS company. So it was about really having an actual entity to talk to, not just a faceless company or lots of big companies. So we wanted to be kind of lean into personalization, but also personification. Hence, Mylo is a name, and you give it character and life, and other brands have had great success for that sort of stuff too. The other interesting dynamic for us is we have direct customer kind of conversation, but we also go to customers through the workplace. So having something that stands out, is interesting, is eye catching, is a bit more relatable, kind of the help you drop your guard character was really, really, really good fun for that. So yeah. It's been customer led throughout. Again, follow the principle we set up with, and ever evolves, I guess.
And as a feature set, how do you establish what was going in that kind of minimal marketable product and what's in there? And I guess then what are you looking to in the future?
Yeah, happy to add a little bit, and then maybe talk about future, Nathan. So in terms of, I guess we called it our MVP, MLP, how we want to kind of approach it. It was all about serving that first customer cohort of job switchers. So obviously the key kind of build was around a hook that was engaging, and that was obviously helping people find their lost spots. I think at one point, if we looked at we build the whole find business as well, and then we met partners that actually do that for a living, and we thought, no, we're going to partner for that bit. But obviously that was a huge part of the mirror feature. But along with that, we've got to accept that we are in the workplace kind of market, and there's some general expectations. So there was kind of basic basic expectations around, values and other bits. But we really did want to kind of get to market fast as well. And I think, in terms of Aegon, we've tried our best to get there, fast, but with enough value to kind of build out from, and we've continued to kick on from there.
And I guess you asked earlier, Tom, around the how we've done it, and to Lee's point there, we knew to deliver that kind of get to market early, test and learn approach, we had to do it differently. Big companies like ours aren't necessarily structured kind of not for good or bad, just because of the size, scale, and kind of legacy, but not, and the system is just the machine. It's serving 1 in 10 customers in the UK are product with us. So in our new home, it'll be even more than that. So it was really about how do you build that digital business that allows you to truly test and learn with real customers, fast feedback, short cycles, and getting that feedback loop really, really sharp is really important to us. So that's why we created as we have, where we are lucky to go after the product team that Lee runs. Design is in there as well. We got marketing, we got customer success, which is the help and support function, and technology. And those people sit together. When good example even this week where customer query comes into the success team, who are helping customers, and then the dev developers are sitting right next to them to talk about what can we change and what can we do. We just many of our competitors aren't set up that way, and we thought there's a real chance here to try and, I guess, one, leverage the scale of a big company like Aegon. Many of our competitors have scale and distribution that Lee's mentioned. There's something around leveraging the DC market in our world, where they've got really slick journeys. Well, let's have slick journeys too. That's what a really, really top quality digital products. And then some of the fintechs who operate differently, right? So if we can blend those three things of leverage the scale of Aegon, copy the best of breed from the DC market who are getting engagement from people, and then we can operate like a fintech. We thought that was the secret sauce, so we're on our way with that.
We've certainly set the cat amongst the pigeons, because I get questioned regularly in other organisations of how the guys at Mylo are getting on and what you've been doing. So it's certainly been pretty game changing for the market. Talk a little bit more about the future, right? I want to talk a little bit around our recent engagement together and the product we built together. I'm actually going to point to David Lowe to give us a little bit of an insight onto how we came about the kind of questioning from the Aegon team to come out with an AI product, and the process we went through, David, to get to where we got to. Please do add some colour for that.
Well, it's interesting because it's all very light touch, which I think is what made it, to be honest. So the initial thing was, let's do something that engages people. And we've been thinking for years in health and wealth are our two main things in work. We sort of bucket them as things that people don't think about until they really have to. And that sets the scene for us in most of the engagements we have. So everything comes down to a form of engagement one way or the other. But we wanted to test something really quickly. Nathan having set the challenge to say, what can you do that makes people curious about pensions without gathering data, get too deep into enterprise land, and just test something fast. So you and I, Tom, you know this is true. We knocked about ideas between us. We used AI to help develop the ideas to make sure they were sensible and then doable. I think we came out with 3.
Yeah.
I think it was no more than we threw these 3 things at Nathan, because they were well developed enough in Nathan's team to say, right, pick one. And that's pretty much what it came to. We got to the postcards idea because it was lightweight. It was something that people all aspire to travel and go on holiday, but it's a future thing that it maps out whether you're going to be in Clacton or the Bahamas for your pension. And I think I keep getting Clacton which is, and I've got a bit of Aegon customers. That's something I need to fix. But so having done that, we settled on that in a matter of hours, really, once we sort of knocked the ideas back and forth. We had a little team of Waracle that, not quite in a dark room, a virtual dark room for a few days, got into Google tools, because we work in Google Workspace for privacy reasons. So we didn't go out to things like Lovable in the market and the fashionable tools. We used safe, privacy-driven Google tools. Firstly, Firebase Studio, which now morphed into other things in Google because they rename a product every 3 months. We prototyped the idea from bare prompting in probably 2 or 3 hours. Having done that, we had a working model in the afternoon that first day to prove the flow works, that we could get the data in a slick way that people could interact quickly. And then we start to get stuck into imagery. So we worked in parallel. We had designer applying your branding for Aegon to make sure it met the color scheme and had Mylo in it and all these things. In parallel, we tested out every image model we could find to try and find the best one that produced images with people's real face in them and real fake backdrop where they were. Immediately we found the hurdle was we had a female developer, and she openly talks about this. They give her a beard. So we then had to get into the whole bias of AI and what it's receiving and what it spits out, and that got messy for a while. Google had announced their nano banana model that it's called Flash 250 at the time. So they announced that week and we pounced on it, and it was absolutely pixel perfect. We still get typos and things now and again because that's how it is, but we jumped on that really fast. So I think we had the working postcard model done day 3, 4. From then on, you were sort of getting diminishing returns pretty quickly, and what we actually want to gather from it, what do we know at the end? How did people find a way through without gathering data on them? We just want performance data on how it worked. I'd say within a week and a half, we had it ready to go. Has it made people think about pensions though? Because we don't see that side of the fence. Having delivered it, what's the return for you guys? For people?
Yeah, it's interesting actually when you say, we picked it quickly. I think that was because of alignment. We had a really early alignment. So Aegon's done lots of work over the years on health, financial well-being, leading for partnership at university, and this whole idea of if you can visualize your future self, I don't know the stats, right? But the better you are of that, the better your outcome and return is going to be.
Yeah.
So actually, when you turned up and said we can help you do that, I was like, cool, that's exactly what we want to do. So that was kind of the appeal and hook for us. The other thing to your point, David, is how do you do it quickly? I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know, so it was like let's take a bet, get out live, as you say, turn it around in rapid fire, which is wonderful. And then Siobhan, who's the head of marketing for Mylo, is got a t-shirt with timely and relevant on. She's all the time relevant. And, people are, it's Christmas time, looking at this kind of the lull between Christmas and New Year, and people are thinking about what they do next year, starting to plan summer holidays. So we thought it was a really good time to go for it. And yeah, it was a treat for us, I guess, probably in more ways than we thought. So it turned out to be Aegon's first customer-facing AI use case. So, in terms of like helping Mylo and Aegon to innovate, that's really cool for us. We're obviously in an intermediate market as well as this kind of direct customer relationship conversation. So when it comes to talking to big enterprise employee benefit schemes, we always get asked about AI. So it's good to be able to talk about how we're using AI to drive engagement, which is a really core mission for us and the employers of schemes. And then for actual customers, people just sharing them, right? We launched it internally first, to weed it out and see if it worked. And yeah, I remember a conversation with a lady who's she works in the marketing department, her son works in our call center, and it's the first time in their time where the son has talked about pensions to his mum, and it was like, that's cool, right? So like we didn't want to overthink it, right? This is not going to change the world, but it's just a timely, relevant, of kind of nudges and engagement to get people talking about it. And even my family WhatsApp, right? Like no one cares what I do. They think it's a bit boring. It was the first time that an actual work chat, right? About pensions and seeing, by the way, where you're going to go. So I think it really does just cross that border into a bit of fun. We built it at a kind of rapid pace, and it's now an asset that we use out on the road. So we do employee benefit fairs. You take the big Mylo out to meet customers. They get a picture of Mylo. You see where your future going to go. It just really perfectly cements a place in our kind of proposition, I guess.
No, great, and I think releasing over Christmas was ideal for people being around the dinner table for one, but also it did mean David had a couple of sleepless nights.
Yeah.
But the thing stayed alive, which is the main thing, and we got a lot out of it. Lee, was there anything you wanted to add around the kind of postcards from the future piece? In what you think it did for engagement, or is there anything you'd like to add around the potential for in future? Again, where do you see it kind of growing? Where do you see it sitting within Mylo?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess me and Nathan had this sort of vision for so we go back to the engagement problem. I think it's about velocity of how many sort of experiments and stuff we can run. It's a great example to start, but we kind of had this vision of having a bit of a roadmap that kind of sits in there. And then for us, it's all about, speed and velocity of these experiments. So this definitely sets us off on that journey, like you said, Tom, which is great. In terms of, it's a good test bed so that there are some ideas of, so for instance, if we were going to look at app environment next, and we're thinking about, future projections in a monetary sense, there's also a real human element to your future self as well that we'd like to bring into that. So learns from this, do people want to give a picture, or, do people shy away from that? Because we looked at some data around that kind of thing. So it allows us to test those things and then, build it right the first time, rather than obviously learn that when it's live in the product. As well. So that's kind of the cool thing about having that experimentation roadmap. And the big thing we talk about, because running Mylo takes up a huge amount of our daily. You probably heard us this morning on all these calls before we jumped on here.
Yeah.
And having that partner ability to be able to kind of do these things, helps us get there faster. In terms of the future, I think it's really exciting. I think we'll probably get into that in a little sec about kind of where the market's going and stuff like that. But for us, we see AI as another tool in that engagement box.
No, brilliant, great answer. And I think for us, we saw felt in particular sets just because the speed we did it in, like, and the engagement we had from you guys, co-working together, getting to the point quickly and getting something out there, right? It was really valuable. David, last question for you on the Postcards of the Future piece. Is there anything you would have changed in the approach, the end product, or is there anything you would kind of add to it now?
No, we
think
think
so as
Christmas,
well.
probably.
Not doing over Christmas. It would be nice. The thing for Mylo specifically, I think, because Nathan's touched on trade fairs and the thing is taken out to, I think we could customize it to the specific end customer. So if you want to show an EasyJet customer in their branding and so on, there's things you could tweak with it, personalize it a little bit more. I mean, we made internal Waracle versions for ourselves, like our retirements and our lives, and had a bit of fun with it. So we had our chief exec selling tickets at Dundee United if things went wrong, things like that. So I think we could have customized it more than we did, but you're in diminishing returns for what you actually get in engagement with that. A bit more of the fun, but that's about it.
Nice. So I want to take a little bit more of a zoom out now, away from Mylo and AI, and particularly the Postcards from Tomorrow piece. I want to talk a little bit more about kind of strategic trends in the market and how we see regulation impacting what you see as kind of the future for digital as a whole. There's been a number of things over the last couple of weeks that have come out. The Pensions Act has passed through, Pension Scheme Act has passed through Parliament. So there's a number of regulatory changes baked into that around sort of master trust, combination of multiple funds and smaller funds, and then also looking at the importance of accumulation. How's that going to be impacting you guys, and exactly what you're going to be kind of focusing on the next sort of year or two?
Regulation was a real kind of enabler for us at the start of this, or a trigger point, I guess. So this doesn't feel like there's a pivot coming. We've been on this journey for a few years now, from pension dashboards being something that's been, I think, 8-10 years in total. We're almost there. We're almost there, but it is getting close. So the regulatory landscape and the evolving nature of that, whether that's consumer duty, another example, right? The fact was about outcomes is really great for us. So we do all of our testing on outcomes. Great. Compared to ABC has feature XYZ, good for them. Does anyone use it? Does it get good outcomes? So that's the way we've taken it. So we are measuring outcomes. I'm not in here to try and build a feature war and who's got the shiniest widget. We want to build meaningful things, and me and the product design team do a great job on inclusive design. We also measure us in the back end, and then that gives us kind of confidence that from consumer duty we're meeting what is needs to be done. And then what you realize is consumer duty just means do the right thing for customer, and like that's where we start. So that's really good. In terms of the future, I guess it's just pensions are more and more in topic, right? Whether that's in industry and the consolidation, mega fund stuff, and again, being part of Aegon's great because we've got that scale, which is what we have against some of the fintech opportunities, which is exciting. But then also we have the opportunity to work with experts in this field, right? You've got a wonderful team of people who are really up to speed and cool, so very members of government. So getting into track on things, yeah. I think regulation and the government's ambition for growth is kind of the perfect field for us to play in, right? We want to grow, we want to have deep relationships, and outcome-based regulation is definitely useful for us.
Yeah, okay. And Liam, anything you like to have that tour around?
No, I think that's a really good answer. I guess what we'd always try and do as well, and said at the start, is just bring it back to that kind of customer problems and what we're trying to solve, and then we map on these things to it. So, regulation accelerators is absolutely great as long as it solves, a core business problem and customer problem that we're looking at. It's the same approach with AI, isn't it? It's obviously nice to have something in the AI toolbox, like you said, but again, it's about trying to solve a real problem, future self and engagement there as well. So yeah, it's a really exciting time, I guess, to be building in this space. And like you said, with it being on everybody's kind of lips at the moment, but for us, it's all about starting with the customer, trying to build out from there.
And I'm going to have to say it more on AI, right? Because everyone's talking about AI all the time. How's it going to influence the member? How's it going to be influencing member experience? In terms of the future and what that means, have you looked at anything around kind of intergenerational wealth? Have you looked at anything in, the crypto market space? What do you see coming down the track? And how do you think AI might be able to influence member experiences?
I guess at the risk of sounding kind of boring, I think Lee's nailed it. It's product wedges and customer outcomes. So we've been live at scale since about September. That's 6-8 months now. 150,000 customers, 200 million assets, kind of close to that number now. And that's by focusing on one wedge, right? So and we look at AI in kind of 3 layers in that current wedge, which is one, customer engagement, which is why we work with you guys. We've got another space around kind of team efficiency. So for example, triaging your defects and monitoring first layer should be AI, and then personal productivity is not using various tools in a day job. In terms of the macro level, I think we got to wait and see a bit, right? Like crypto, we're not there yet. One of the things we found in the life moment story is we're not your crypto bank, right? So we are pension, and it's it's a really big serious conversation. Yeah, matters the fun stuff, Pink Square and stuff, but it's a serious conversation about often people value sums of money. So don't give me an AI bot, right? It's we are proudly digital, but backed by people, right? It's really quite important to us. So you can have a conversation on real human, because transferring a large sum of money is quite important to people. So that was really for us. We definitely will evolve in line with AI, right? I think we're cool to be the first people to be using it for customers in our business. Other people are doing interesting stuff, and which we treat to see where it goes. Lee, you've got obviously your views on that too.
Yeah, I guess as well, just to add for that, I think that's a good summary. Each company Waracle is obviously on a different adoption curve with AI, and I think that's absolutely right. The scale of our business, the amount of people that trust us with their life savings, and actually what we found is that from speaking to so many customers, that the baseline level of understanding is absolutely really low, and that's a big thing we try and focus on in terms of that. So there's kind of the sequencing of messages and how we can use that from that perspective. But yeah, I think everyone's on their own kind of curve. I think the engagement space is something that we want to continue to experiment in for sure. We're still figuring out as a team how we use AI, and probably similar here in terms of how you do that. One of the interesting things I've observed is when people share AI docs and stuff now with each other, it sometimes lands kind of weird, because they're like, did they spend a lot of time on this? Are you correcting my work with AI? So there's all that kind of side of kind of personal relationships that you have to kind of work through. So yeah, I think it's still kind of watch and learn for us where we are, but it's great to have something out in the market already.
And David, how you used AI to help build out the Postcards from Tomorrow proposition, and we're using it a lot in the Waracle business within the software development lifecycle. How are you seeing that enhance kind of our offering that we're going to partner with the likes of Aegon on, and then also how that might it affect that sort of hyper personalizations piece that might affect their kind of member experience?
There's two things, I guess, or maybe three. To start with what you say, what we did with Aegon gives us a template to show the market what we can do quickly and safely, and it gives us a way to work. So it gave us something to do that we didn't have before, because we hadn't really tried it at scale or with an enterprise up to then. So it gave us something to work with. And we at Waracle 2 are pretty much everything Nathan said. We're figuring out where AI lives in the three tiers you said. We have customer-facing things that we do with AI, like this one. We have internal process and improvement, which we're live working on just now. We got quarterly target to do a big leap on that, which is going really well. We're about halfway, a little bit early in the numbers we try to hit. And then underneath, we've got other systems that we're trying to improve with AI. So very similar to what you said. In the market, we've seen two interesting things that kind of go away from what you said. So one utility, it's not in this world, but very heavily regulated, said to me they don't want any humans in customer service at all. So if you call them today, you're speaking to a bot of some kind, a voice bot, but you wouldn't know. And they're actually quite proud of that. And your company maybe wouldn't be the way you've taught. So that's an interesting thing, that how you engage, what that bot's got access to be functional and so on. And then the flip side, we spoke to a CTO of another big finance house, what's who it is, but they deal in all their financial planning in ChatGPT. And the question to us was, how do we get ourselves into ChatGPT so that I can engage with my own company in ChatGPT? And that's not a new problem. I worked with Alexa years ago, plugging in things to that. And we actually forbid financial conversations because Amazon didn't want to know what you were talking about, and we weren't allowed to sell things. But that's the company themselves trying to embed themselves, which was the same in the Alexa days. And ChatGPT will let them do that. But what willingly would you say to that service? What data would you expose to it? And how do you allow the interaction to happen? So in time, where do you spend your digital time? Because it's maybe not the tools you guys build today. In 5 or 10 years, maybe you are chatting to an assistant and you have to feed into that somehow, which then gives an ecosystem of other things that people hear. So I'm just curious how all that's going to play out, especially in your world, what you'd be willing to do. But there will be people that try it.
I think AI will absolutely come into our customer engagement conversation. Yeah, that's inevitable, but it's not to replace. I think the radio lead meta customers will be on the road together, right? For every person who's up for an AI chatbot, or even if they know and I don't know, there's like 30 people who are like, absolutely enough, right? This is 50, 60, 100, 200,000 pounds of my money. You sure it's going to move?
Yeah.
So there's just a trusting that will come in time, and I think it'll bleed in. It'll be very, very transient from, you know, AI's helping the person have the conversation, and then all of a sudden it's doing the first 30%, 60%. But you know, let's look back over the last 10 years, not AI necessarily, but you know, robo advice. No one's cracked it. There've been various versions of decision trees and this, that, and the other. The tech's not the problem here, it's the engagement and the kind of comfort with it.
And it does, I guess, you know, it gives us a chance to look at the economics of these problems. So like the advice gap, something that is large and it's been hard to solve because it's mostly human centric, because that is ultimately what most people would like. But the tools that are available now give us a chance to relook at some of these problems. And, you know, maybe it's not everyone in an adoption curve straight away, but you get a decent wedge in there to kind of start to prove out. And, you know, like you said, some of these things are highly adaptable at solving this stuff.
People are using ChatGPT, right? We hear it loud and clear from the customer conversations. People are doing that now, getting I won't say advice, but they're talking to ChatGPT about their finances.
And I think it's about like not ignoring that as a trend, right? And actually try to bring some of our expertise to those conversations.
I was going to say, would you rather be in there steering it than watching people do it wrong or being misadvised or something? That's kind of the vibe we got from the other conversation, that they want to be in the tent early to figure out how they live in it.
And I guess to some extent we are, right? We've stepped into this consciously, but again, you know, whilst experimentation is a massive part of how we've operated, you got to, you know, again, there's a lot of personal data, there's a lot of guardrails that need to be set up. So yeah, we're in the race where we're not necessarily looking to try and take over Claude or OpenAI at this point, right? It's just about helping customers, right? If that need to evolve, then we're absolutely ready for it.
A couple of you have mentioned data when we've just been talking there, and also about the importance of it. How challenging is that been for you guys in at Mylo, and when you've been developing out your proposition, getting good sources of data?
Yeah, so pension data for gravy, right?
Yeah. It's interesting as well. So I guess we're going back to what we kind of said earlier. We knew that engagement engine and data was a huge part of what would make us successful in driving better engagement than potentially we have in the past. So we started with the firm view from a product perspective that we had to instrument mostly everything. So we have really good insight on what our customers do, which helps us then build out what we want to do next and have those conversations. So that's okay. To your point of probably you're working in a legacy space where, you know, maybe the need for that data wasn't necessarily there before. So you have to kind of patch around it a little bit, but it's amazing what you can start to pull together in terms of, you know, end-to-end journeys. And very proud. One of the proudest things with the team is they're very data first, which is one of the principles that I guess we all wanted to work to begin with. It's good seeing them all sharing a little bits of data. I just had one of our POs this morning message me, and she's just launched a new sort of experiment in our one of our highest traffic areas of the app, and she was sending me all the data this morning. She's like, it's looking good now. So I think on our side in terms of Mylo, we've tried to build first that way. And to be honest, we do have a lot of access to stuff already that we can use for future.
But if you look at the industry though, right, I guess the challenge is products are 40, 50 years old. A lot of it's still paper, right? So, you know, we could request a transfer from someone and it's got to be paper form and that data doesn't exist. Yeah. I think there's, you know, open banking was very helpful for the banking industry. It forced people to expose their data and modernize their IT systems. Open finance is still a dream, right? We all like to get there, but it's not until it's mandated. It's a really hard business case for any large company, for all large companies to get together and align on, here's how we're going to share that data. Because, I say some of the product types that I've learned about that existed before I was born are quite interesting.
Well, it'd be a bit of a shameless plug, but Waracle did just acquire a data business in the last week. So if there's any more problems you're having with the data, come and give us a shout, guys. It wouldn't be a conversation with the Mylo team if we didn't talk about awards. You've won a few this year. Could you give us an idea of the awards you've won and why you think you won them, I guess, in a pretty crowded marketplace?
Yeah, so I think the cool thing about the awards is it has been for different things in different industries. So, there's some very heavy pension ones, so pension age communication awards. So that's about how Siobhan and her team has done a great job just transforming engagement in industry. To win a Scottish tech one, again, so the competitors there aren't necessarily, the pension companies. We're battling against actual kind of tech company, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we want in the kind of professional advisor space, which is also good. So yeah, there's lots of breadth to it, which is good fun. Take it with a pinch of salt, right? It's nice recognition, but the cooler thing is at least the data. See, people use what we built. That's actually what matters, right?
Yeah, and I think when you like you said it's massive pinch of salt. You probably sound like thin folks, right? But for us, it's nice for the team to get a bit of recognition in that space, and a lot of those kind of submissions are based on data and stuff that we're able to share on real outcomes, which is great as well. So that's a really good side of it. And we'll see. Is there any more?
Yeah, it's 2 next month too. I think.
Are they going to keep going?
Currently 4 times. I'm aiming for 10 by the end of the year.
Having worked with quite a few of your team when we were coming up with proposition together, the awards piece does play a big part, right? Because it creates a bit of buzz around the team and conversation.
Yeah,
it's great to see out.
The first one was the coolest because we went live. It's a slow, right? I know it's a larger product. It is long time in. You work 14 Sundays in a row or something around just like
Got 10 in the office.
or not quite sleeping there, but not far off, right? It is super tough. So we'd all kind of launched it and gone well. And yeah, just the customer recognition is great, but to get industry recognition and build a cool thing was also really good. So yeah, it definitely gave the team a boost at the right time. And now we got taste for it. Let's keep going, right? You keep going for try and be successful in all areas.
Brilliant. David, I want to come to you for a bit of closing thought on AI first. Where do you see AI transforming the pensions business for the next sort of 5 years?
I think AI will be led by regulation. It's one of the rare times it's going to happen. It's almost an enabling constraint. There are certain things you will want to do, certain things you can't. I think what the guy said about regulation, sort of giving you something to work with, is probably where everything lives, and especially in finance and health, where we live. So I think that's the start of it. But AI will drive efficiencies where it can and where you want to, because we talked about augmenting what humans can do as opposed to replacing them. So that's not going to go away. And I think in 5 years, it's not going to change that much because high value things will be driven by humans. I think it will drive better understanding of data because like Lee says, there's data coming through that you didn't have before necessarily to use AI to spot that quicker and act on it quicker. That's coming now and using AI and Gen AI is part of it. There's other forms of AI too, to use that to capitalize on what you know. I do think there's something in where people live their lives because people will get used to AI being central to everything. The expectations will change. So it's not exclusive to pensions, but travel always leads these things because it's an easy industry to get into. And it wasn't why we did postcards necessarily. But if you look at all the things scaling up in ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, they're all doing flight search first because it's just a thing you can do that's quite benign. It's not that regulated. So once that cracks something, there's going to be a change of behavior that people get into. So I think it's not exclusive to pensions, but we'll see how people behave now. AI is kind of central to them, and that will change a lot. And what people are willing to do and what they're able to do, it's a fascinating time, but it changes every 2 weeks at the minute. So I wouldn't predict too far, right?
So true. And adoption has been the biggest thing that's enabled that change, right? People playing with so much all the time. I mean, myself personally, I've even vibe coded a lot for my new baby boy. So it's, things are changing when I'm vibe code.
There was a moment for me when I came home after months on AI where Partner Abby was like, so when we did the living room and ChatGPT said she let's color. Okay, fine. So it's a nice step in, people who tend not to use AI and technology are stepping into it and getting value from it.
People have said it's like electricity, it's just going to be there in some fashion. You probably won't know. I mean, Apple, if you did use autocorrect on a phone, it's been there 10, 15 years. Nokia had it much far back than that. But it's a form of AI you use without knowing about it. That's going to creep in because it's got more powerful, but you might not know you're doing it. So I think that's the interesting thing, the subtle uses of AI where Apple always wins because they don't really advertise it. That's the leading edge of what people actually do. We'll see where it gets to.
Or running through lovable credits.
Yeah.
Lee, I'd have a closing question for yourself. Given where you've come from and starting your career here at Waracle, it's a lovely full circle moment coming back.
Great beyond the plan.
Coming on the podcast, I think you're actually part of the team that set up the original sort of podcast on that side.
5 days back in the day.
What career advice would you give to anyone who's looking to get into product? How do you go from where you've been to where you want to get to?
It's a good question. I think with product, the thing that I observe is a lot of people, and Dave probably similar, there's not like a certain path. A lot of people kind of fall into it by course of doing other things. So for me, that was kind of curiosity around, strategy and those kind of things. I really like digital product and design and user journeys, and I love, speaking to customers and trying to solve problems. So you kind of get this Venn diagram that you end up, kind of with an opportunity to go and experiment in that space. So I think the first thing is don't worry too much about trying to get the right route in. I think go and get some of those experiences first. And then the second thing for me is just have that curiosity to, have that conversation with Nathan about, well, what could we do, in this space, or have that curiosity to say, I will go and try that. And you better like solving problems because there's a lot of problems to solve. So that's kind of what gets us up every day to kind of go out and try and make things a little bit better.
Well, I can certainly say you've never been shy of solving problems. You did that a lot here at Waracle, and it really was a pleasure working with you when you were here. Nathan, finally to you, what advice would you give to anyone in the early stages of planning for retirement? Right? We've noticed that Gen Zs are difficult to engage with. What advice would you give them to get into saving and how important it is, and the kind of channels that are available to them?
I guess the usual caveat of not regulated advice, just to be clear.
Yeah.
No. I think it's just get going, right? Like the worst thing you can do is not start. That really is just, I don't care how much it is in early days in your career. Just feel very lucky to work in the pension industry because it just happened, and like all of a sudden 5, 6, 7, 10 years later, you're like, oh, actually I'm glad I didn't start when I was in my 20s. I think you just gotta get going. Mylo's on TV this week talking about it, and it's like just gotta get saving. It's not easy, right? We hear it now to hear from people that cost of living is a challenge and not saving, but yeah, your future self will thank you.
No, great answer. I think I do have one final question for you both. Having partnered with Waracle, what did you see the biggest benefits be of partnering with us and working with us?
I think that happy to go first. So I think for us, like I said at the start, we had this kind of vision or hope for a bit of a accelerated experiment type of roadmap that, we were just struggling to find the time to kind of get to, because there's so many things about running a live product at the scale that you got to pretty quickly that requires so much time, but we knew there was a big opportunity there. So I think for us, having that partner that could obviously move quickly and kind of do things quite self-sufficiently, but, have a shared vision of roughly what we were trying to do in the customer engagement space was key. So I think partnering with you guys obviously allowed us to kind of get further ahead than we would have without that.
Yeah, it's not just a random dev house, right? It's you understand the industry, you understand the market, and I say back to when we first engaged at Postcards, your ideas align very much well where our research was. But this is great. So there's definitely a experimentation, pace, delivery, quality, but also it's expertise and the willingness to bring in examples from other industries that we don't get sight of. So we try our best to keep our heads out of the finance industry and keep our eyes open, but it's hard all day, every day when you're dealing with really micro level problems around logins and this prototype and that prototype. So bringing the outside in is something I've held in my career, and I love working with partners who kind of make that possible.
Thank you very much. Gents, we've covered a lot of ground today. It's been a really interesting conversation. I'd like to congratulate on everything you've obviously achieved with Mylo. I know it's only just the start of the journey, but it's been amazing to watch. Been great partnering with you on the different products propositions. To our listeners, please go follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and keep your ears to the ground to what's next. Thank you very much for tuning in.